Even if we're just dancing in the dark. All right. Well, I just wanted to go to this, start out with the New Jersey gubernatorial race. I mean, there was last night was an election night, and let's just talk about Jersey really quickly before we dive into Zoran and go through some of the news. Um, so first of all, I see this, these results. So Cheryl wins. She won pretty quickly, actually. They declared this 9:23. I think the polls closed at 8 o'clock. So this was very fast. Jack Citarelli, Cuzzarelli over here, he he did worse, I believe, in this election than he did in his last election. I think he lost the last election uh, by about 5 or 6 points. This one, he didn't even come close. And it's going to be some questions. The first question is, in a state that has about 9 million people, how do we have less than 4 million people voting? So that tells me that the independents did not come out and vote at all. So that's a problem, right? Now this is 95% of the votes counted, and they gave it to Cheryl, and he was losing. And if you look at some things here, this is where things get a little odd. So she did well in Trenton. I guess that's could be to be expected. He did well on the shore. Very well on the shore. He did well in Sussex. Kind of expected that. West Jersey, kind of expected. These are very rural parts. But then it gets a little odd. So he didn't do well in Middlesex County. Middlesex is pretty rural. It's sort of a mix, but I mean, it's just rural. It's not exactly a Democratic hub. He didn't do well in Union County, and there's a lot of Republicans here in Union. He didn't do well in Somerset. He did terribly in Essex. Like, it wasn't competitive. I know that's where she lives, but, it wasn't competitive. And Bergen County didn't do well. Didn't do well in Passaic. Didn't do well in Hudson. I mean, he did better in Hudson the last time. Now, am I saying that there's shenanigans going on here? I don't know. I mean, there were issues with some of the voting machines. There were issues, people saying that there were ballots that were pre-filled. There were people saying that there were ballots or there were people who basically they weren't registered, so therefore they were turned away, and there wasn't enough time to get them registered to vote. It was very strange. I I have to call into question how I'm not questioning the fact that she won. I think she won because for me this race was going to come down to if independents come out in numbers, then he had an advantage because he would be seen as the upset candidate versus the machine. But if it's just the registered voters coming out to vote, not energized, then she would win because she's part of the machine. I mean, you can all the commentary about no kings. The Democratic Party is the predominant party in the United States. Period. The proof of that is the fact that they are part of the uni party, but they're the dominant part of the uni party. They are the more expressive wing of the globalist machine, of the Western banking system. That shift occurred over the past 25 years. I would say, especially with the anointment of Obama. The Democrats just took a different turn. They're bigger business. They have more billionaires. They are a bigger part of the system. There are individuals who are Democrats that are not part of the system. There are some individuals who are Republicans who are not part of the system. But the majority of the Democratic Party is part of the system. The proof of that is even when the Democrats are out of power, quote unquote, when they're the minority in the Senate, the minority in the House, and they don't have the executive branch, nothing happens. Nothing happens. For example, has anybody been brought to court over the Russiagate hoax? No. Has the Epstein list been released? No. Has the war in Ukraine stopped? No. Has the bombing of Palestine stopped? No. Nothing's happened. Now, I'm not saying Jack Ciattarelli represents any of that. Jack Ciattarelli is not a dynamic representation or personality who swings anything. That's his problem. He came off as an accountant, a CEO, a boring kind of, hey, I'm putting Republican next to my name and Trump is a Republican, so vote for me because I'll tell you I agree with Trump. And maybe that's how he feels. I have nothing against Jack Ciattarelli. I just don't think Jack Ciattarelli was anything special. And I think Mikey Sherrill is the same thing. She's a vassal. She's just there to keep everything moving, keep the lights on. She's Murphy 2.0. And one thing I find odd in a state of New Jersey where people hate the overdevelopment of the towns, they hate the high taxes, they hate the high cost of living, they hate the high car insurance, they hate the high electricity bills. I find it odd that Mikey Sherrill, being a Democrat who is in lockstep with the people that have been running the state, I find it odd that she could win so easily. That's odd. That tells me that the people who are really fed up, they didn't come out to vote. That's what that tells me. Either that or the thing is totally fake. It's one or the other. Because people are not happy with New Jersey. I haven't seen anybody, I don't know anyone who is happy. Most people I know are literally they're not moving because they feel stuck here because of something. They're not here because they are energized and happy to be here. I don't know people like that. Now, there are rich people here who love it, but there are most people that I know are not uber rich and they are frustrated with their bills. They're frustrated with the direction of the state. Again, the electricity bills, the high taxes, the high cost of living, period. They're not celebrating the policies of Governor Murphy. And at the same time, their party is able to win easily in the state. That tells me the people that are frustrated just didn't come out to vote. It's not that they didn't vote for Ciattarelli, they just didn't come out. Ciattarelli got Republican votes in New Jersey. That number looks, maybe it's a little low, could have been higher. But if he was a dynamic candidate that really struck the nerve of the people here, if he was actually Trump instead of just a kind of loose extension, that would have been different. I think the person who should have run for governor for the Republicans, who I think would have galvanized the vote, is Huma, the girl, the lawyer who was the state attorney general who was placed by Trump, who couldn't get confirmed. That's who should have run for governor, because she's a beautiful woman, she's young, and she's from New Jersey. She's been here, she's worked here, and I think she would have been the perfect candidate to counter Mikey Sherrill. And Jack was just like another, let's give it another go, Ciattarelli. But, I mean, I'm not a Republican, so I don't really have skin in the game from that perspective. I think both parties are pretty terrible, so it's just going to be more of the same. Like, if you're okay with Murphy, you're going to get more Murphy. I don't have any ill will towards Mikey Sherrill. I don't know her. I don't I don't really think anything of her particularly. I have some concerns. I didn't like some of the things she said about parents and opting out of LGBTQ lessons for young children, things like that. Like, I thought that was stupid. But that's kind of like Democratic pandering. That's typical. The Democrats are always talking like that. I don't know if they actually believe it or not. Some of the people believe it, like the people on the streets, but the leaders typically don't. They just play the game. Now, that's the governorship. So that's Mikey Sherrill. She'll be taking over. So really nothing's going to change. Everything will stay the same. Prices, all that stuff. Same policies. None of these things are anti-imperialist. None of these things are working class. None of these things are going to reshape the direction of the economy. None of these things address the root causes and problems in the state of New Jersey. All right. Now let's go on to Mr. Zohran.
Thank you, my friends. The sun may have set over our city this evening, but as Eugene Debs once said, I can see the dawn of a better day for humanity. For as long as we can remember, the working people of New York have been told by the wealthy and the well-connected that power does not belong in their hands. Fingers bruised from lifting boxes on the warehouse floor, palms calloused from delivery bike handlebars, knuckles scarred with kitchen burns. These are not hands that have been allowed to hold power. And yet, over the last 12 months, you have dared to reach for something greater. Tonight, against all odds, we have grasped it. The future is in our hands. My friends, we have toppled a political dynasty.
What's better after 50, Gwen? Gym or Tai Chi?
One builds ego.
Sorry about that. Stupid commotion.
I wish Andrew Cuomo only the best in private life. But let tonight be the final time I utter his name as we turn the page on a politics that abandons the many and answers only to the few. New York, tonight you have delivered a mandate for change, a mandate for a new kind of politics, a mandate for a city we can afford, and a mandate for a government that delivers exactly that. On January 1st, I will be sworn in as the mayor of New York City. And that is because of you. So before I say anything else, I must say this. Thank you. Your city and this democracy is yours too. This campaign is about people like Wesley, an $11.99 organizer I met outside of Elmhurst Hospital on Thursday night. A New Yorker who lives elsewhere, who commutes 2 hours each way from Pennsylvania because rent is too expensive in this city. It's about people like the woman I met on the BX33 years ago, who said to me, I used to love New York, but now it's just where I live. And it's about people like Richard, the taxi driver I went on a 15-day hunger strike with outside of City Hall, who still has to drive his cab 7 days a week. My brother, we are in City Hall now.
If you haven't picked up on it, what you're getting right here is why he won. He won not because he's a communist, not because he's a socialist, because he's not. He won because he got the people who feel disenfranchised to connect with him. Jack Ciattarelli maybe he is a nice guy. He did not get the people in New Jersey who should have felt a connection to something different. He didn't get them mobilized. In New York City, they're already leaning blue, they're already leaning Democrat. They love the things that AOC and Bernie already say, even though they don't actually do anything. But what Zoran is saying made them feel a certain way. And if you are a person who feels any kind of frustration with the system, and then you look up and you see Zoran, and you see Sliwa, and you see Cuomo, of course, Adams basically dropped out. When you see those three, who are you voting for? Sliwa doesn't have enough self awareness to understand. He's living in the wrong century with his red hat and his, complaining about crime. He's not wrong about crime. He's not wrong. But this is not the 70s. Stick to the radio. Cuomo. Cuomo and the Democrats have no self awareness. Cuomo was run out of his position as governor. That's why he didn't finish his term. Cuomo running for mayor in New York City after being governor, it's just an act of humiliation and a lack of awareness at every level. The fact that the Democrats felt so strongly in some of their wing, the battle between the AOC Democrats and the Chuck Schumer Democrats, the Nancy Pelosi Democrats and the Bernie Sanders Democrats, because Bernie's a Democrat. The fact that they disliked Mondani so much as, a AOC type, that they would go out of their way to support Cuomo, and even so far as to cut some kind of handshake with Trump to get him to say something nice about Cuomo. I mean, if that doesn't tell you about the state of that party and where they are and the lack of commitment to any kind of principles that they never really had. From Tammany Hall all the way to today, nothing has ever changed. A guy who I have respect for, Caleb Maupin, made the comment yesterday, and I think he's right. Have these parties really changed? The Republican Party was always about fanaticism. From the time of their founding, when they were the abolitionists, they formed to end slavery, this fanatical rooted hatred of slavery. Not all because of ethics, but some of it was because of economics and this frustration with an economic block of power in the South. And then you have the Democrats, who for the longest time have been the party of the big city. They've been the party of the urban hubs. They've been the party that draws its power from big labor union, big city hall Democrats. And that has been the source of their power. Zoran comes along and he talks like AOC and Bernie, and Cuomo, it represents the power structure. He represents the they and the thems. He's the guy in Cuomo that the average guy who doesn't want to be on the bus, who doesn't want to be crowded, who doesn't want to take the subway, it's dirty, it's uncomfortable, it's frustrating, who doesn't make enough money, who lives in an apartment, maybe doesn't like his apartment, maybe doesn't even like the neighborhood anymore. Cuomo's the guy who looks at and takes all his rage out on. Mamdani comes along and says, I can't fix your life, but I can make this city a little better for you. And that little bit of a handshake, that I went on the hunger strike with the taxi cab driver, that I connected with the volunteer who commutes from Pennsylvania because they can't afford to live here. That connection is what pushed him over the top with New Yorkers. Plus, he's younger. And the under 40 crowd, they wanted to connect with him because they can't connect with Cuomo and they can't connect with Sliwa. Sliwa's an old man to them. Cuomo's a slick Rick to them, and he's older. Mamdani is their guy. He's like the new Obama. Obama's always was more of a system guy. I think most people could even see that. He was much closer to Bill Clinton than he is to Bernie Sanders. Mamdani is more of a Bernie Sanders AOC type, but he is going to work with the system. You can make no mistake about it. If he doesn't, if he actually behaves differently, well, that would be very curious. As I've said before, Mamdani's weakness is not that he's a socialist. It's that he claims to be a socialist, but he's not. He denigrated Venezuela, Cuba. He denigrated, he's not a fan of North Korea, China, certainly not Russia. Yes, he focuses on New York, which is the right thing to do as the mayor of New York. But he made it clear that he doesn't support these other countries in any kind of revolutionary movement. He is not a believer in that movement. He is a socialist via the democratic socialist. And he says, "Oh, well, Martin Luther King said it's about making the system better. It doesn't matter what it's called." Well, it does matter, because you either have principles or you don't. You either believe in something or you don't. And if you don't have a North Star, if you don't believe in anything, then you'll fall for everything. And Mamdani, being an AOC Bernie type, he's going to say a lot of things that's going to make people feel good. But he doesn't actually believe in the principles of dialectical materialism. He certainly doesn't believe in any anti-imperialist movement. His focus is on, I can give away some stuff to make your life a little bit better in the short term. I can give you that dopamine hit. And I think that's because when you're dealing with desperate people, they'll take anything they can get. And the revolution is a longer road. That's always been one of the weaknesses of the socialist movement in the process of building towards communism. It's a longer road, and people don't have time in their life for that road. People want to get the quick hit. And Mamdani, unlike a lot of people in a lot of communist parties all across the country and around the world for that matter, but especially in the United States, Mamdani does something that they don't do. He connects with the regular people. Regular people who are frustrated with the system, are frustrated with their life, frustrated with New York, he connected with them. And that's something that the communists are not doing. They are not connecting with regular people consistently. I see great inroads being made by the ACP. I see them going out and I see them connecting with people, but in masses, it's not happening yet. When you can go to football games, baseball games, hockey games, basketball games, when you could go to town fair events, when you can get thousands, then you know you're starting to rock. Bernie and AOC have been able to do that. Certainly Zohran is able to do that in New York. Trump was able to do it. He's a populist. But will New York improve? One of the fears I have, for example, when he talks about freezing rent, so you're going to have small landowners or landlords that don't have a lot of property, that maybe they have one building or one apartment that's off market now because it was rent stabilized and they couldn't keep up with the cost of renovation and all that. So it's just off market. He freezes the rent across the board. That small landlord is going to have to sell that building to a big developer. Then the big developer buys it on the cheap. Maybe they make improvements, maybe they don't. And then Zohran comes along with the city and says, "We're going to buy it from you." So then they flip it to Zohran. My fear is that Zohran is going to aid and abet the people that he's claiming he's going to stand up against for the working people. That's my fear. Now, I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's going to happen, but that's a fear of mine. So I wish him the best. I hope he does well. He's certainly not a stupid person. I think he's a smart guy. He's articulate. He's charming. He's kind of funny. And I really do wish him the best because I am from New York and I want New York to do well. But I have my reservations. And if you ask yourself this honest question, what has Bernie Sanders or AOC ever done for anyone? Bernie Sanders is a rich guy from Brooklyn who lives in Vermont. AOC is a congresswoman. She's now 2 or 3 terms in from she says she's from the Bronx, poor girl from the Bronx, but really she grew up in Westchester, who represents a district in Queens. What has she really done for her district? How is her district better off because of her? That's really the question you have to ask. It's not hard. This is why the Chinese and their government is so successful. This is why they're so popular. Because people will say, they'll complain about freedoms and go on and on and on about all kinds of things that they think that they are projecting onto the Chinese. But if you ask a person over there, what has the government done for you? They can actually list tangible things. There's no homelessness, nobody's hungry, there's high employment, the streets are safe, and the infrastructure is the best in the world. Best subways, best buses, best highways, best bridges. Now they have tons and tons of excess of electric vehicles. The cost of those cars is going to continue to go down so that average people will be able to afford them. They're developing land all over the place. They're foresting the desert. They're achieving so many things. And again, when you ask yourself, what does your politician here do for you? The answer is almost nothing. They don't do anything. They're useless. But the politicians over there achieve something. So I hope Mamdani is able to do something. I hope he stays true to what he says he is, but I have some reservations and fears, and I just have to see how that plays out. Moving on. Interesting little thing here that popped up on my feed. Former president of Sudan states that the CIA and Mossad are behind the Boko Haram and ISIS. So what he is claiming is that the killings in Nigeria are being done by terrorists that are Islamic terrorists that are backed by the Israeli government and de facto the United States. And that is the real reason why all of a sudden now, once there's been a development in producing oil, that now the excuse to go in will be to clean house. The excuse to go in because the Boko Haram, again, if I'm not mistaken, Boko Haram is operating all throughout Nigeria, and they are the ones attributed to killing the Nigerian Christians. Now, I don't know what evidence he has of this. I don't know what evidence has been produced. Um, I I'm not sure if this might be the second time I've heard this claim. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, look, if they are involved, it would make sense. But I have to say that on some levels, regardless, the killing still has to stop. I mean, that's number one. But number two, it shouldn't take an invasion of anybody in order to stop the killing of these Christians. So I'd like to see something done here, but I am concerned that there's going to be an escalation. Hopefully, there's nothing that happens there or in Venezuela because I don't want any invasions. See this comment. The Mondani psyop hinges on convincing the gullible right. He's a radical, radical communist jihadist who will impose Sharia law and the shit liberals. He's a social democrat who will bring feel-good changes for yuppies and underpaid millennials in New York City. The truth is he's neither, but simply there to keep the two sides fighting over a character that doesn't exist. He's not going to better the lives of New Yorkers. He's not going to take on Zionism. He's taking he's talking about anti-Semitism, FFS. He's certainly no communist, nor is he even remotely a threat to the establishment. His election is of zero significance to Palestinians or U.S. imperialism, to which he simply adds a better flavor for USians. But let's be real, that's all 80% of Americans care about anyway. They don't really give a fuck about the world beyond their slogans. On the contrary, he's rather a part of the elite beyond Soros, which is an obvious indicator that will continue to divide the masses. Yeah, I mean, that's a fair assessment. He has to prove it otherwise, but that's a fair assessment. Everything that she's saying, I mean, look, you can't be anti-imperialist and believe he's working for the working class when you're got your arm around someone who is a funder of no kings but lives like a king and behaves like a king. He's so much a king that he's not beholden to any government anywhere. So, yeah, it is a little bit ironic, if not sad. And being wealthy is not the problem. I don't have a problem with the Soros family having a lot of money. I don't have a problem with people having a lot of money. You can have a lot of money. The question is the system. And if the reason that people are cynical is that yes, Zoran is going to make a lot of, millennials and Gen Zers feel good about him being in charge instead of Cuomo. That part is true. But what is he going to do policy wise that's going to actually help working people? And unfortunately, you have a lot of people with money. Sometimes they are competing with each other with different interests, and sometimes they just have their vassals. Is he a vassal? Well, Mamdani certainly doesn't come from nothing. So I don't know if he can relate to the poor, but is he going to be there to actually help people? Even the millennials who voted for him, I mean, Mamdani never had their problems. When he got out of college, he went to work on his mother's film sets. And when he was done with that, he worked on some campaigns. Then he ran for state assembly. He's been a state assemblyman making six figures for a few years, and now he's the mayor of New York City. Not exactly a trajectory filled with a lot of thought about dialectical materialism or the struggles. So I don't know. Which side are we supposed to go on? Yeah, look, I got it. It's it's uh it's tough. All right. Students in Kiev record as their teacher is dragged and forced into a minibus. I mean, the Ukrainians are really good at kidnapping people and getting tough with their citizens and whatnot. Um, just not exactly winning the PR battle. Put it that way. Not exactly winning the PR battle. Let's see. A little refresh here. Reject Soros leftism and embrace Bolshevism. Yeah, I mean Soros leftism is not real. Uh, good account here. Family question mark already abolished by capitalism. No one can afford to get married. No one can afford to have children. Infidelity is at an all time high, and communism will simply bring the real family back. Yeah, not to mention the psyop by neoliberal culture that young men and young women hate each other. Young women feel like they have to stick up for each other and hate young men, and young men hate the young women of our society. I mean, they're not only can they not afford to get married or have kids and live lives together, but they actually hate each other too. So you have the combination of the culture and the economics leading to an impotent society with no children and a low birth rate. So that's really spells a great future for us. Meanwhile, in communist societies, there's there's certainly doing what they can to make life affordable. In the global South, they have a much higher birth rate. U.S. Congressman Scott Perry reveals Boko Haram in Nigeria receives millions in USAID every year. Oh, there it is. Interesting, interesting, interesting. So there's another claim, same concept. So we're funding the terrorists that are killing the Christians, and then we're going to turn around and use that as an excuse to go into Nigeria. Meanwhile, in Syria, the same thing is happening where Christians are being killed, Druze, D R U Z E, Druze are being killed, and Alawites are being killed by the terrorist group that we funded to take over the Syrian government because we didn't want Assad to be the leader there because he had a relationship with the Russians. Quite pathetic. Tom Fitton, communist terror supporter Mamdani seems to have been elected mayor of New York. This should not prevent and adds to urgency to a deneutralization investigation. Huh? Oh, denaturalization. I'm sorry. So he wants to see if he's allowed to be here because he was naturalized. as a citizen only a few years ago, and does he have anything that they could use to remove him? Jimmy Dore. There is no left in American politics. The establishment pretends there's a left to keep people from starting an actual revolution. Just like Obama served Wall Street and the war machine, Mamdani will keep the status quo while giving minor symbolic gestures to the left. Yeah, I mean that's what it smells like. Hopefully we're wrong, but that has to be a concern. There is no left and right. The right is also very fake. There's what are the Republicans? The Republicans are just like the weaker Democrats, basically. To avoid a repeat of last night's shellacking in the 2026 midterms, Republicans should, this is according to Thomas Massey, quit covering for pedophiles, put America before Israel, put farmers before corporations, quit funding wars abroad, reduce spending to control inflation, and quit attacking independent voices. Very fair. And one of the ways that we are putting corporations ahead of American citizens when it comes to food is this whole debate about SNAP. One of the things that hasn't been brought up, there are people who need SNAP. There are people that are on the program that shouldn't be allowed to be on it. But there's a whole other angle here. But here's the problem. I don't care about I don't care enough about removing some illegals from the program when we have trillions of dollars for 800 military bases and we don't have enough money to feed people. There are people that still need the help. But here's a little extra thing that isn't talked about. Large corporations that produce food, they get contracts from the government to produce food in excess to give to them. And SNAP raising the cost, okay? They are the taxpayer is paying for SNAP, and SNAP is paying these big businesses. So the only person really getting screwed here is the taxpayer, because the taxpayer, whether they're the recipient of the aid or not, the taxpayer is footing a higher bill every year for food that is being automatically purchased from these large food making producing companies in the United States who absolutely love the SNAP program. So everybody's winning except for the average American who's getting squeezed out of their money by the government that doesn't review the cost of this food. If this were a communist country, there would be a cap on the amount that these contracts could go for. And besides the fact that you wouldn't have a foreign-owned central bank, which causes the currency to be devalued and useless, but the fact is that these food companies are benefiting tremendously from SNAP. That's a whole nother angle. That's one of the reasons why so many of the politicians want to turn that spigot back on, because they're all bought and paid for by the large corporations that are benefiting. So it's another fake outrage issue where both parties are playing games here. Yeah, I don't know what this is.
Electric, so satisfying.
The name is Mamdani, Mamdani. The name is Mamdani, Mamdani. You should learn.
Sharia law starts now. Absolutely. Zohran Democrats, Islamic Caliphate, our brother in Islam, Islamic Caliphate of New York starts today, baby.
God, there is just something so electric, so satisfying about knowing that my MAGA parents, wherever they are probably having a horrible night tonight. Oh, I literally just got goosebumps thinking about it. Like they are in such a bad mood probably about the fact that Zohran just won and Prop 50 is gonna pass. Like, wow. God, I'm sorry. It just makes me feel good that my MAGA parents are probably upset right now.
When the day starts with Dick Cheney being dead, it ends with Mamdani winning. Oh, yes. Oh. I'm so happy. Oh my God, I'm so happy.
Yeah, I mean, look, you understand why some people are so frustrated, rightfully so, with the system and why they're excited about somebody different, right? But here's the problem. Every single person in this video, They all are privileged, rich kids. I can tell you why. Number one, that girl says her MAGA parents. Well, that means that she's not from the area. So she had to have money to be able to pay rent for that apartment that she's in. These black girls dancing, they don't look like they're necessarily struggling here. The girls in the bar, they have money to go out drinking and get food at a New York City bar, so they have to have some money. So you're not talking about people that are struggling. These are all young women that are doing well in the economy who think that they are achieving something by putting in Mamdani. Now, they may never feel that they're getting screwed by Bernie or by AOC because they don't have real socialist principles. They don't care about working class people. They don't care about minorities who are struggling. That's not really their concern. They're part of a race of liberal people, neoliberal Western people. And that race lives off of the suffering of poorer people in the society. And their greatest competition is not working people, but it's conservative people who are simultaneously being screwed by the neoconservatives that control their fake representatives. So that girl who's talking about her MAGA parents, she's going to get screwed, but she's okay because she is happy with her status as a neoliberal. And her counterpart is a conservative who thinks that maybe Lindsey Graham, who somehow keeps getting reelected, or maybe Mitch McConnell, who somehow keeps getting reelected, that they are representing them. But those people don't represent them. What's truly sad is that the concept of MAGA, maybe not the proprietors of MAGA, but the concept of MAGA is built around a populist working class movement that if these young girls were true to form, would actually be supportive of. But because the proprietors of MAGA are not in line with their politics. And because the people that end up running and ruining the concepts do not follow the actual MAGA principle, which I believe is closer to working class populism. That is why they'll never get on board. And that's also why these conservatives all across the country are freaking out about Mamdani when they should be freaking out about their poor Republican representation. So it's just garbage all around, by the way. Young women, 81% Mamdani. Yeah. No, I mean, look, the liberal women came out and voted in droves. Well, I guess they're the registered voters anyway, right? They're the participants in the system that keep it going. I mean, look, and that's also why the birth rates are so low. None of these girls are going to have kids. They're not going to, I mean, all these women, they don't have boyfriends. They're not married. These are all the women that are living alone in apartments and feel invigorated by neoliberalism. They love AOC. They hate Trump. They hate MAGA, and they don't like Cuomo, and they don't love Schumer, but at least they're Democrats, right? But they believe in neoliberal politics. They're not real socialists. They call themselves socialists, some of them, but they're not socialists. They're neoliberals. They've never been to socialist countries. They don't believe in the cultural conservatism that pervades in socialist countries. They don't believe in dialectical materialism. They don't believe in Marx. They don't believe in Lenin. They don't believe in Stalin. They don't believe in Mao. They certainly don't understand the Chinese government, how it works, what they believe in, what they fight for. They don't understand or care about any of that. They believe in their neoliberal. It's not even Trotskyism. Trotskyism would almost be too conservative for them. It's closer. But I don't even think Trotskyism necessarily aligns with them. Some of them don't like the war in Gaza. That they don't like. But they're not anti-imperialist because they're okay with the war in Ukraine because they think Ukraine is led by a former dancer who would cross-dress and parade around, and he's Jewish. They don't like Russia because Russia's a conservative country to them, and Putin is a warmongering KGB agent to them. So the neoliberal girl in Manhattan hates Russia, so she's okay with the war against Russia, but she's not okay. She wouldn't fight in that war. She wouldn't fight in it, but she's okay with that war. But she is not okay with the war in Gaza because that looks like white people hurting brown people, which she can't necessarily get on board for. Um, it would have to depend on circumstance, but she couldn't necessarily jump all over that. So they're not true anti-imperialists. Excuse me. Okay, back in December 2023, I covered the nomination of Vladimir Putin as a candidate for re-election in Moscow. Shaman sang the Russian national anthem live, unaccompanied and unassisted. Something I'll never forget. Okay. Let's see, Gaddafi. Those who hit New York on 9/11 were not Afghani. They did not take off from Iraq or Afghanistan. They flew from JFK Airport. The whole action was done in America. They were trained in America. Yeah, well, that's true. And they were aided and abetted, unfortunately, probably by some Americans. But Subway declined his EBT card, so he starts. Who is he fighting?
Give me, wait, you know what?
Go for
Listen
it.
to
You know
me.
some DVT.
All subways do normally, okay? I didn't know that. Okay? I talked to her and I told her that I had an EBT card on me. I was holding it when I was
Get
getting ready to
cash.
pay for
Why
it.
don't you have cash?
Because I don't have the cash on me right now.
Okay, why don't you have cash?
Okay? And maybe I
Get your
don't
money up,
have
now your
cash
funny
on me.
up. Get your money up, now your funny up, bro.
Excuse me?
Get your money up.
Get your money up.
Dude, why are you using
hold on.
EBT?
First of all,
Use some money.
you're
Use
going to
some
get fired, dog. Okay.
Go for it.
I'm going to call. What's your name?
Bob the Builder, dog. Get the fuck out.
Bob the Builder? Okay, I got you, Bob the Builder. I'm going to wait by this car. I'm about corporate right now.
Go for it.
Get the fuck out, dude.
Shut the fuck up. Bitch, how the fuck
Get out. You're a little bitch. Get the fuck out. Get out. Get out.
Hey, man.
Get out. Stop
Is there
harassing
else?
these people. Get out. You better not.
Oh my god, Don! Oh my god.
Bitch, what's going to do with that?
Hey, dude.
Well, I mean, look. First of all, it's not cool to start punching. That guy probably shouldn't have got involved. I don't know if he worked there. He shouldn't have got involved. But you see what happens here is you have one poor person or one person that obviously doesn't have a lot of money, and he has an EBT card. Now he didn't look homeless or anything, but there's a lot of working people that have food stamps now. So that guy is arguing with the owner of the store or the guy behind the counter about using his EBT card, which they don't want to accept. The other guy is, and now I'm going to project, but I don't know because I don't know. The other guy is clearly somebody who probably works, who obviously doesn't use EBT, and who feels frustrated by constantly being bombarded by seeing videos and whatever of people who he feels are getting a privilege of getting food stamps while he has to struggle and work to pay for his food. You see what's happening here. Neither one of these guys may be wrong, but they're being played against each other. That is the opportunity that we have to make change in this society. These guys are being played against each other. Neither one of them is wrong. This guy is not wrong to be frustrated that he has to work. He has to get up every day. He has to fight, scratch, and claw in order to make a living so that he has enough money to buy food. And this other guy feels like, hey, I see trillions of dollars going to 800 military bases. I see trillions of dollars to fight wars, to bomb children, do all kinds of terrible things. But we don't have enough money so I can get a bite to eat. Both these guys are being played against each other to the point of violence. Violence. That's what these politicians are doing to us. That's what the government is doing to us. That's what the media is doing to us. They're playing us against each other. Start looking up. This is what Marx was trying to say. This is what communism is about. That's why the West hates communism. The West hates communism because communism is trying to teach us that we need to stop fighting each other and start looking at who the real problem is. the copium from Valve fanboys as well. Having a dominant market share somehow does not make you a monopoly because you offer superior products or service. It's fine to prefer Steam, but Gaben is a billionaire and Valve is a giant global corporation. They're not your friends. Valve Steam holds a monopoly on the PC games market, say 72% of industry executives surveyed. Okay. Yeah, I mean, look, video games is becoming less and less diverse. Um, if you think about it, Nintendo Switch, so Nintendo Switch, Xbox, and PlayStation, right? Now, it's not that nobody else is able to get into the game system, but it's so expensive to make a video game now that you don't have as many game developers left. And in the system market, Xbox and PlayStation are consolidating in a lot of ways and sharing more and more IPs that at some point you're going to see them, one of them is going to disappear. It's probably going to be Xbox is going to probably step away from the console game and just be focused more on being a game provider or a service provider. So the games industry is not in a great place in terms of diversity. How should the WNBA handle this? WNBA, we're sitting out until we get paid like NBA players. Okay. I mean, if you can generate NBA revenue, I guess, I mean, here's the funny thing. I don't this is where we're going to, this is where I'm going to sound like a capitalist, right? But look, the bottom line is there has to be a market for what you're doing, right? So you're choosing to take on a profession where you for a living you're going to play basketball. If you play basketball for a living, the key is that people have to want to watch you play the game. I like playing basketball too, but I have to do it for fun because nobody would pay to watch me play. If people are going to pay to watch you play, you can decide if you want to charge more money and see if they'll still want to watch you play. You could decide if you're going to make the TV contractors pay more to have access to stream your games or to put your games on television. But you have to understand that you can't force them to pay more. If they have no interest in your product, they will stop watching it. So you can't just demand the same amount of money as the NBA because the NBA simply generates more revenue and has more interest than you do. That's just a fact. As soon as you get over that fact and realize that it's a privilege for you to make 80K playing basketball versus most people can't make 80K teaching children or fighting fires or being a police officer, then maybe you start to realize that you do have a privilege. No one's going to feel sorry for you, and you're just going to piss off the few fans you may have gotten over the last few years from fighting with that white girl in the Indiana basketball team. YouTube deleted all my coverage of Israeli. Ugh. Yeah, well, not surprised. Hmm. Yeah, it's hard to regulate immigration when you have unfettered, uh, millions of people coming in. You don't even know who they are. It's not socialism. I've already gone over that a few times in this video, so I won't continue. All right. I don't want to go on too long because I've already been talking for a while, and I have some other things I want to do today. So I think that's about it. Let's see. Private equity firms snapping up mobile home parks and driving out the residents who can least afford to lose them. Jesus. So America, they raise the price of housing until you can't afford it and then arrest you for being homeless. Yeah, I mean, look, housing housing is now about speculative assets. It's not about living. Food is an investment by large corporations. It's not about eating and feeding people. Healthcare is another investment opportunity. It's no longer about healing people. Um, that's where we are in society. And when our culture teaches us that we have too many people anyway, so you don't feel bad about people suffering and dying, then it becomes a rooted part of the culture. If you look at if from China, for instance, they're believers in Marxism, Leninism, and they're believers in Confucianism and Taoism, Buddhism. All of these things teach you what? They teach you that you can have hierarchy in society, but in that hierarchy comes responsibility. And that responsibility is that you have to teach people how to behave and you have to give them what they need to thrive. And in turn, they will give you love and respect back. Um, this part of the ethos is not here in the West. It's not here in the United States. The United States is a private banking corporation. It doesn't care about anything. All it cares about is money. And the people that run this society, they are milking it dry. And they have convinced young girls in New York to hate their parents, to hate men. They've convinced young men in Iowa to hate, young women who, who aren't fake conservative. They've taught people to, be divided by religion, by race. And the reality is there's really only two groups in the West. There's people who are in the club and people that are not in the club. And I got news for you. If you're on the board of directors at the Bank of International Settlements, you are in the club. If you have a checking account at JP Morgan Chase and you live in Brooklyn, you're not in the club. If you live in South Dakota, or you go to college in Alabama and you go to church on Sundays, you're probably not in the club. So the class struggle may not be best defined by some of my comrades through the terms that they use because the terms sound like 1930s or 1800s. But if you start speaking in terms of ways that people can relate, are you in the club or not? And the people that are in the club, they are the ones who are behind the firms. They are seeding the private equity firms that are going out and purchasing utility companies, that are purchasing hospital systems, that are purchasing mobile home units, that are purchasing housing in general. And everybody who is using those services is not a member of that club, not in the club, and they're going to get screwed by the club. The sooner we realize that, the sooner we can start doing something about it to better our society. We have to change the way we think. We have to get away from maximum extraction of capital being the goal. So the point of this stream today, or the point of this video today, was just to point out that we have to hold our politicians accountable. Don't go soft because you think you have a new shiny toy in Mamdani. Is a reflection on Trump to an extent because his lack of focus is absolutely killing his presidency. He is not focused on the things that look, I'll hit Trump on things he does stupid and I'll congratulate him on things that he does that are smart. And I thought the concept of reindustrializing is a good idea. I think the concept of focusing on vocational schools is a good idea. I think that reevaluating our budget and taking a look at where we're wasting and not being involved in foreign wars and not, trying to negotiate peace, talking to the Chinese, talk to the North Koreans, talk to the Russians. I think that's all good stuff. Tulsi Gabbard being in charge of NSA, I think that's a great thing. But then when I see Marco Rubio pushing for a war with Venezuela, being aggressive with China, when I see the war hawks saying bomb Iran, these are stupid things. And if Trump was focused on fixing the United States and copying some of the strategies that are used by the Chinese, like more golden shares, which is state-owned enterprise, like more rebuilding. I mean, you're the CEO of Trump International. I want to see you take advantage of those connections to rebuild our society. Don't worry about building another fucking hotel. Start building some roads and bridges, some high-speed fucking rail. Instead of private equity buying up homes and buying up mobile home parks, why don't you develop some housing there? We have to change the way we think. Capitalism and the maximum extraction of capital is like being in an enclosed environment and water is rising. It's already drowned the poor. Now it's going to drown the middle class. Soon it will come for the upper middle class, and then eventually life in America will become so untenable that the rich won't be able to be here either. Why are we allowing that to happen? Why are we allowing that to happen? Let's stop it now. Let's start making changes now. We have plenty of money for stupid things. Let's spend our money on some things that make some sense. If you've gotten anything out of this, please like and subscribe and share. I do this purely out of the interest of my own. I don't have any sponsors and certainly don't do this as a full-time job. I have other work. I appreciate your support. And also, I want to give a shout out and a request to the communist parties, the socialist parties, and the innovationists, all of the people out there. If you do, before you post another video on Twitter or YouTube, start advertising ahead of time what it is you're going to do so that people can actually catch up and go with you and participate. Share. Let's expand this movement. Let's unite and work together. But we have to be aware. We have to be aware of what's going on. Sometimes by the time you've posted something, it happened a day or two ago, no one even knew it was going to happen. I guarantee you can have a larger turnout at your events if you advertise a little bit. So that's just a suggestion I'm making. I want to be involved more, but I don't even know when you're going to do stuff. And unlike you, I don't know what your schedule's like, but I have a regular job. And so do so many people I know that agree with you. So we have to know ahead of time, when are you going to do something? Let's work together. Let's get to work. And also, if anybody here has any connections in China or Russia, I have a great interest in visiting. I really want to be able to see the society for myself. I want my family to come over because I want to be able to rent a home there. I want to rent a home in bricks. I want to convince my wife that it's a place of the future. So if you have any contacts, any suggestions, please share with me. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much, everybody, and take care.